When you think of ancient Philippine transportation, what comes to mind? Foot trails? Bamboo rafts? Maybe a carabao cart? What if I told you, before the Spanish ever set foot in the islands, horses were already there? Finding Pinto 3, Return of the Lequios, Part 7, The Forgotten Horses of the Philippines, before the Spanish came. Here we go. Giddy up. Not as myth, not as assumption, but as historical fact, documented by one of the most overlooked American researchers in Philippine history. From the Journal of Heredity, an academic journal from 1916 on behalf of the Bureau of Agriculture in the Republic of the Philippines, even. Talk about credible. In this video, we dive into the incredible work of David B. Mackie, who uncovered the forgotten origin of horses in the Philippines. And yeah, he documents it with valid history, far removed from the narrative we've all been taught. Most of us have heard the mainstream version. Spaniards brought horses to the Philippines from Mexico, and that's the origin of every native horse here. It's just like they did with the elephants, for that matter. They forget valid, written history and pick a date far newer as a supposed origin point. It's called propaganda. But when Mackie began asking Filipinos and even Spaniards about this, he noticed something strange. Everyone said the same thing, but no one had evidence. That includes Jesuit propagandist Dr. Austin Craig, who speaks of horses, but also begins at the wrong origin point. In ignorance of history, he was no expert. How did he not know what his contemporary Mackie did? Yes, they lived at the same time. They were in the Philippines at the same time. He was entertaining his Jesuit friends as a court jester, not representing actual facts he did not know or pretended not to know anyway. Worse, scholars began assuming all horse words, like caballo, were of Spanish origin, and therefore horses must have arrived only with the conquest. That is illiterate, as there are several local words they, just simply overlook. Mackie didn't buy that. He went looking for primary records, native terms, trade logs, and colonial correspondence. This would include Pinto's record of seeing horses in Lequios, which is indisputably the Philippines. And what he found was astonishing. Mackie divided Philippine horse history into 4 periods. A time when horses were unknown. The era of the Malay Muslim migrations bringing horses from Sumatra and Malaysia. How exactly is someone calling themselves a scholar or academic and not aware of this era entirely? And there is a reason Filipinos, such as the Igorot, developed their own riding styles. Yep, there's one on screen, an actual photo, and notice the feet. Wow. The Spanish period, which imported horses from China and Japan, not Spain exclusively. And the American era, which tried to improve the breed with Arab and Western horses. Yes, we are aware of a completely illiterate PhD who's released a journal article claiming that was the origin of horses in the Philippines. Now that is propaganda, and it certainly is not academic. The guy has read nothing and knows nothing of Philippine history. Today, we'll focus on that critical second phase, the time before Magellan, when horses were already known in the Philippines. That's right. That includes Pinto's record of horses in the north, and since Ryukyu has no ancient horses, well, let us not pretend that was ever a theory. According to Mackie and sources like the genealogy of Sulu, the Sulu archipelago had vibrant trade with Sumatra in the 1300s and 1400s. It's funny how they focus on that heavily for elephants, yet they forget the same era also brought horses. Leaders like Makdum, Raja Baginda, and Abu Bakr, Muslim scholars, traders, and royals arrived not just with religion and commerce, but also with animals. Is that really a shocker? Even logic, without written history, would deduce such, yet they ridicule anyway. That's not logic. And among these animals, why, the horse, of course. In fact, the people of Sulu and Mindanao had their own names for horses. Kuda in Sulu, kura in Mindanao. These are not derived from Spanish caballo. And that matters because the non-Muslim hill tribes who had no contact with horses did adopt the Spanish word indeed. Conflating that as the origin of the horse in the Philippines is utterly illiterate. This is direct linguistic evidence. The Muslims used horses in the Philippines before Spain arrived. No surprise. Only colonial bias forgets that and claims to represent history. It does not. But it doesn't stop there. Mackie also cites a report from Don Esteban Rodriguez de Figueroa in 1578, sent to Spanish Governor Sande. He said, "These Moros are most dangerous people, being familiar with all manner of firearms and with," oh, what's that word? Horses. How about that? Read that again. With horses. That's from a Spanish report, not speculation. Did Scotty beam those horses into the mountain areas of the Philippines right then? And what a miracle! The local Filipinos already knew how to ride them with skill and use them in warfare even, because, well, that happens with no practice at all, of course, right? See how crazy that sounds? Even in Antonio Pigafetta's first voyage around the world, horses are mentioned in the southern islands, further confirming that the Muslim South had cavalry and familiarity with mounted travel. If they were there, scholars, when Magellan came, then, well, the Spanish did not bring them. Duh. Here's where it gets even more surprising. When the Spanish did bring horses into the northern islands, they didn't come from Spain, principally. They came from China and Japan. In 1583, King Philip II ordered that horses be shipped from China to Manila. Note to scholars, that is after the 1578 Spanish record we already covered. In 1587, letters mention 30 Chinese ships bringing merchandise, cattle, and horses. That's what it says. Yes, we know there is a claim of supposed debunking this because a shipwreck was claimed to have had horses originally, which turned out to be donkeys when scientists assessed the skeletons. However, we aren't talking about that later record, which is impertinent. Later letters confirm imports from Japan, including the Nambu breed, known for its strength and draft traits. Even Antonio de Morga wrote that the original Luzon horses came from China and Japan, not Spain or Mexico. However, de Morga did not go to northern Luzon, where Pinto was shipwrecked and horses resided as well in Pinto's time. With all this evidence, that also becomes fact, even further affirming this entire narrative. This turns the whole colonial narrative upside down. So what do these ancient horses look like? Mackie conducted actual science, unlike Dr. Craig, who did none. Studying horses in every Philippine province, he classified at least 5 distinct types, each with different traits. The Sulu pony, oldest type, likely from Sumatra, hardy and compact. The Chinese type, thick-set, short-legged from southern trade. The Japanese type, long body, big hooves, possibly Nambu breed. The Arab-like type, elegant and high-spirited, especially in older settlements. And sadly, the scrub type, a result of poor breeding and neglect in modern times. He even observed horses in Cagayan and Ilocos Norte, North Luzon, showing clear Japanese traits, born from generations of isolated bloodlines. That's no coincidence. This history is not just about horses. It's about a history itself that has been rewritten, reshaped by colonial minds that couldn't imagine an independent, capable, pre-Hispanic Filipino culture. Another term, racism. Horse culture meant mobility, trade, status, and military power. And if Filipinos had horses before Spain, they had so much more than we're told. It's time to reclaim that history. David B. Mackie didn't just theorize, read or blog for the actual journal article, and you can read it for yourself. He documented, cited, and mapped the forgotten origin of the Philippine horse in an academic journal on heredity, even. Now that's credible. Malay Muslims brought horses to Mindanao and Sulu in the 1300s. So says history, that is. And Pinto observed they made their way to North Luzon by 1544, because he wasn't in Ryukyu, period. That is not a theory. Spanish reports confirm horses existed before colonization. Period. Imports from China and Japan, not Spain necessarily, shaped the horse populations of Luzon. This changes everything. Source: Philippine horses first brought to the islands from Malaysia, later by the Spaniards from China and Japan. By David B. Mackie, Bureau of Agriculture, Manila. Published in the Journal of Heredity, Volume 7, Number 8, 1916, pages 373 through 382. Read it yourself in our blog. Like, subscribe, and comment. Visit thegodculture.org to get notified of future videos because YouTube struggles with that one. Drop by our new blog site to read more suppressed history as well as links to this article and to subscribe directly at thegodculturephilippines.org. Don't just believe what they told you, nor what we say, which is meaningless without support. That's right, prove all things for yourself. Thanks for watching. Yah bless to everyone.